Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me. I thought I'd pop by with another video. Again, another simple idea. Let's move these up a little bit. I'm absolutely frozen. So I'm going to use the poinsettia. Let's grab the poinsettia. And of course I can't just grab the poinsettia. There we go. So I'm going to use my poinsettia, which is this stamp, which is TE20 is what I'm going to use. TE20. There we go. Don't know where to put that. I've got things lying around everywhere from the previous video. There we go. Roll the sleeves up. Let's grab the poinsettia. Let me just see. I can never decide which way I want to place the poinsettia, but that's me all over. I'm chucking everything on the floor. Absolutely everything. Move that there. Okay, so I'm just going to sort of decide which way I want to have the poinsettia. I think I'll have it that way. Yeah. So I'm going to take my Versamark Watermark stamp pad, which is a sticky ink pad. Now, I don't know how many times I've touched this card, so I'm just going to use an anti-static bag just to wipe over that. Just to make sure that I haven't got some of my little paw prints on there. There we go. So we'll just give the poinsettia lots of tapping, just to make sure that there is lots of ink on there. And then I'm going to add, where are you going to add your poinsettia, Tracy? Let's add it there. Do you like how I can't make my mind up where I'm adding the poinsettia? So for the first time in a long time, I've actually stamped it almost in the middle. I don't very often stamp in the middle, but I have on this one. So let's just give that a little bit of time just to work its magic onto the surface of that card. Let's not lift it too soon, because that's how we get a little bit frustrated because we haven't got a good image. Not that you can see anything as usual, and guess what? I haven't got a piece of copier paper, so we'll use one of my invoices like you do, because I'm such a professional. So let's just scatter that. There we go. That's beautiful, and the anti-static bag has done its job, not his, its job. There we go. And just so you can see, we have that impression on there. Let's put the heat tool in. Grab our heat tool, and we'll just heat that up a little bit, just so we're not wafting everything everywhere. And as per normal, Tracy always knocks something off, but that's me standard practice. So let's hold that up a little bit. Just give that a heat. There we go, it's starting to turn now. And of course, white on white is very difficult to see. Just turn that around. let me lift this up so that you can see, probably not easy, but just so you can see the glossy embossing. Let's move that out of the way. If we move a couple of things out of the way, it just gives us a little bit more space. There we go. So what I'm going to do then, let's move this all out of the way. Move that out of the way. Everything's in my way. So I'm going to add some water to my card, and then I'm going to take the Wonderlust Wisteria Lindies. There we go. And then I'm just going to sprinkle some of this onto my card. Now, can you see I am being sort of reasonably careful, just so I don't add too much. There's not enough water on there for me. There we go. Let's place that down. So let's add there we go. I haven't put my kitchen roll underneath like I did in my previous video. There we go. And then I'm just going to take my round brush and I'm just going to move that around. Now, if I lift this up, this has a shimmer to it. Let me just move that. You can see this, you will see anyway when I hold it up later. This has a beautiful shimmer to it. Let's just, and I'm just going to leave that on there for a few moments. Let's grab some kitchen roll. The only reason I'm grabbing some kitchen roll is because it's so wet under the desk, under this part here. So I just want to place that on there, and then I can move it out of the way just for a few moments. Let me move that. So just moving this out of the way. Let's move the Versamark. And it's still soaking wet everywhere. When I spray, I really go for it, trust me. I just get it everywhere. And if, hopefully the camera isn't moving as I'm just, there we go. So I'm going to grab another scrap of card. So again, my Pink Frog Super Smooth card. You can use your watercolour if you wish. I now want one of my, I wonder if it's one of my VersaFine Clairs. Let's see if it's Hawthorn Rose. Yes, Hawthorn Rose goes nicely with the shaker, which is called the Wonderlust Wisteria. So I'm going to take the Hawthorn Rose. Let's take that. Lots of tapping. There we go. And I'm just going to take a little bit of kitchen roll and I'm just going to dab a little bit of the ink off the silhouette area. I'm just going to dab a little bit off the silhouette area. And because we're using that wet ink, it gives us plenty of time. I've got it all over here as well. It gives us plenty of time, no need to worry and you know, sort of rush your project. There's no need to do that. So just give this a little bit of time. There we go. Just so it makes an impression on there. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. And you can see the area there, I've faded it out so it's not the darkest of the hawthorn, and that's why I dabbed it. So let me just grab an acrylic block as my palette. You can use obviously a paint palette, of course you can. Let's just add some water here, and let's add some of our shaker. I love how you can shake them into. There we go. So let's take our brush now and let's stir this. Look at the pigment in that. Let me lift it up and you might be able to see it is shimmery. It's actually got some shimmer in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint with this, and I'm just going to add some of the colour just to the floral, just so I can see how much it shimmers. Now I'm testing it initially, so I'm going to dry that. And I just want to see how dark it layers, so you can see again I'm playing. So yes, it's a proper shimmer colour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine the shimmer colour with some watercolours. So let me move this out of the way because I will use that. And can you see this is my background? So let's leave that out of the way and let's bring in my watercolours. So I'm going to bring in, let's move this out of the way. I'm going to bring in my watercolours now. And I like the rose, looks like Rose Madder Deep, number 36. Now the chances of me picking that the first time are slim. Really slim. Let's just take that out. There we go. Well, all this, some of these for a start. 36. $35. 34. Is this 36 then? $36. Rose Madder Deep. So let's take that Rose Madder Deep. Nice deep colour. I'm going to add some moisture to this. Let's continue to use this as part of my palette. Now let me see. Oh yes, nice. Again, wonderful pigment. These are my Gansai Tambi colours. So I'm just going to take this off and I'm going to bring in a little bit of this dark colour now. And I'm just going to do a little bit at a time. And then I'm just going to take the excess off. Let's grab some water. Obviously you can use a paint palette. I just want to work nice and small, nothing too much. And then I'm just going to, can you see how much pigment is on there? I can almost wipe that off because I want to drag that out. And then I can put the shimmer on the top. Let's just grab a bit of water. So initially it's very light, but we will work on that, won't we? So I'm doing sort of not the middle area initially, and I'm trying not to stick my head into the camera, which, trust me, when I get engrossed, it's a little bit difficult to try and not get my head in camera. I'll take a little bit of water, take off the excess, and then we'll just drag that out. Now, I'm going to want to make that a little bit darker. Of course I am. But that will take a little bit of work. So let's just add that there. Take off the excess, pick the water up that's tinted with that colour. And you can see that's a little bit wet for me, but hey ho, I'm going to dry that anyway. Pick up this colour, and I'm doing sort of the alternate bracts, just so that I can work slowly and just take my time. So it's initially like I'm putting a wash on there. So let's give that a dry. And you can see I'm using a lovely fine brush. Let me see if there's a little bit of a darker colour. What colour's this? That looks like a brown to me. I don't really want a maroon. No, I think I'm going to try and just work with the one colour. What are you meant to be then? I'm talking to my colours now. What colour are you meant to be? Rose madder. Oh no. I'd rather have the one I've got. It's hilarious how I talk to myself. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more of this lovely pigment. So I've spritzed this and I've just picked up some of that neat pigment. And then I'm going to come in with the fine brush. And I'm going to come in a little bit darker. So coming in with a little bit more of that pigment, just so that that is a little bit darker. Isn't it amazing? Now, if you wanted it pastel, you've got that option because you can just dilute it. One of the advantages. It would help if my light was a little bit better, even though I've got a daylight light. So let's pick up that neat colour again. And once you've sort of marked out where you're colouring, it does make it a little bit easier. It's initially when you're just trying to get that area marked out. Sometimes you can lose sort of focus of where you are, if that makes sense. So I'm using a nice fine brush with that beautiful pigment on there. There we go. Lovely fine brush with that pigment. Beautiful. So you can see it's a lot darker, and I'm going to pick up that tinted water and take off the excess, and then just drag out the colour a little bit more. So I'm just dragging out the colour. And the advantage of using a fine brush is that you don't pick up too much water. So I'm just picking up that tinted water, taking off the excess, and then dragging out my pigment. Now you can use your watercolour card. It's moving plenty enough for me on my pink frog, but you can use your watercolour if you wish. Just be mindful that your watercolour is not as white as the pink frog, so all you need to do is cut another piece of that watercolour and mount it onto that, and then it looks exactly the same. Now let's go to the dilute. So I'm just taking my time, and I'm too much water, take that off, because I don't want to dilute it too much. So whenever you've got too much of anything, just dab it off a little bit. It'll just help you whilst you are adding the colours to there, just so you can see. I'm having to tilt mine sometimes just because the way the light's shining on my colour. So let's take, oh, wrong one. I've gone into the Lindy's. There we go. Beautiful. So can you see, I'm just building up the layer, building up those dark layers. Now you can leave these as leaves if you want. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to leave, I'm going to colour that one. We'll see. So let's take a bit of water. It's almost drying on there. Let's pick up that pigment. And that brush is now smothered in that pigment, but not enough water. And having that fine brush really does help. There we go. I can use the water we've got here just to rinse this out. You can see how pigmented that is. And I'm taking off the excess moisture so that I don't flood that area. But it just keeps it a little darker around there. And I'm going to go in darker still. But what I'm going to do, let's just clean this up so we can see exactly what we are and are not using. So let me just grab a wipe. So this is my Lindy's. Let's just clean this up just so that we've got a clean area. And so clean up is nice and simple. So this is my Lindy's here. So you can see on my watercolour, it's sort of got flowing with fluid in there. So let's give this a dry. And then I'm going to go back and pick up some of this neat colour. Let's just spritz with a bit more. So I've got this neat colour again, and I'm going to come in yet again. And I'm just going to just put a bit of water there. Let me just pick up Might flow a little bit more there. I'm just going to tilt it again, just so I can see. I'm just going to add a little bit more of that dark colour. Can you see how pigmented the watercolour is? I'm going to just take the excess off my brush. So this fine brush has got some moisture on there, but it's not saturated. So let's take a little tiny bit. So what I'm not doing, I'm not dragging all that out. What sometimes you can do is let's pick up the watercolour again. So let's pick this up again and let's make this really dark here. So I'm making that line just where the petals meet, just really dark. Now really what you're supposed to do is take a little bit of water and then you're supposed to go up to that and then you can drag the colour out. Because you don't want to dilute that dark area too much. There we go. It's really easy trying to work with your paper lifted. But that's what happens when the weather and we're in the winter. We have to just work with it as much as we can. So let's just bring this dark colour. And then let's pick up some of the tinted water, which is just a tint, obviously, of the same colour. Take a little bit of that moisture off so we're not drowning it. And then we can drag that colour out a little bit. I definitely have to lift. I have got another light the other side, which I should have put on, really would have probably helped me. But I didn't, so there you go. That's what it is. So I'm going to just pick up a little bit more of my colour. And you can see that I'm making it really dark. And where they touch the inside there, I'm making that really, really dark. Because you want that to just emphasise. Let's touch that tinted water. Take a little bit of excess water off there and then I'll come in and just drag that out. Come in and just drag that out. So we need to do this one here. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that colour. And this here is simply the VersaFine Clair, which works nicely as a colour. Too much water, so take a little bit off. Because you don't want to dilute that too much, or I don't want to dilute that too much. So I'm going to do this one here. And can you see how we are building our colour up? But it's a nice simple idea. You can use your watercolours, your Ecoline pens, Inktense pencils, whatever you want. Whatever makes you happy. So I'm going to come... I nearly put my head in the camera then. Let's take a little bit of moisture off there. And let's come down here. we go, a little bit of the hint of a tint, and let's just, don't forget this has just had one layer on this petal, so we are going to add another layer to that one, and it's not a petal, it's a bract. There we go. And normally you would perhaps colour these green. I'm not going to, because I do like it to look a little bit different every now and then. So let's pick up this again, and this one hasn't had as much layer of colour on there. Going into that tinted water, and it does show you just the quality of the pigment just on there. And you can see I've not done this one either, because I'm good like that. Let's bring a little bit of water in. Let's pick up a little bit more. And now I'm getting to the stage where I'm bringing it towards me, because it's a habit, because when you're painting you want it as close to you as possible, but that doesn't help when the viewers are looking. Oh, this fine brush is wonderful. No idea what makes that. Don't ask me to read that in this light, not a chance. I'd need my magnifying glass. But it's a lovely fine brush. Come in with a little bit more. Take the hint of a tint, take off the excess. Let's do this one. And that one. And it does help so much more when you've got that fine brush. So I can come in with my fine brush and just drag out a little bit more. Of the pigment. Pick that hint of a tint. I now keep calling it and can't stop calling it. So you can see I'm not going right into that point there and dragging all that out, because you want that to stay quite dark, or I want that to stay quite dark. And the reason I'm drying it is so that I can keep adding a dark layer. You can see that's still wet, but I can keep adding a dark layer. So come back to our little palette here. And then it should be able to add even more. Use your hint of a tint, which Tracy's just made up. There we go. Pick up this again. Let's pick up the neat pigment. And let's just make that a little bit darker. Picking up the tinted water, take off the excess. And just drag out a little bit more. So taking the neat pigment, take the tinted, I'd say that's got a little bit too much water on. Pick up that tinted. Actually, I need the neat pigment again, just to make it darker. A little bit more. Pick up the water. Too much water. So you can see why the kitchen roll really helps you. Pick up the neat pigment. There we go. Let's have a little bit more water because that's drying on there, because I've got the light underneath. Take a little bit of the water off. Let's drag this out now. So pick up a bit more water, take off the excess. So just blending out and smoothing out. There we go. You can see with your water, you can still come in and just blend out a little bit more of our pigment. So take a little bit of the tinted water, take off the excess. And then blend some of your pigment out. There we go. As it dries, it gets a little bit paler. So let's give that a dry. And whilst that rests just a little bit, you can see that's nice and dark sort of in the centre area. I'm going to bring this in that is now, can you see, let me see if you can see the shimmer. Can you see the shimmer on there? So you've got a beautiful shimmer on that, which works rather well, works rather nicely. And you can even, if you want to, you can come in and add colour to this. So you can even add a little bit of colour. So let's take this. You can even add colour on the top. Let's just dilute that out, and that will just dilute out. It just looks lovely on the white. Now I've coloured different ways. So I've coloured the one on white card, and the idea is I'm showing you here colouring it direct onto the white. Doesn't mean I'm going to use both, but it's important that I show you. Both. So you've got that white under there. Let's just take and blend this out just with the tinted water. So you can see I can emphasize the petals again. No, they're not petals, they are bracts, Tracy. And obviously the white embossing resists this. Looks quite nice like this, doesn't it? On that. May not even need this one after I've spent all this time. But then that's what being creative is all about. Let's just cut this out so I can play around with it like I would a jigsaw. It doesn't mean, what the heck are you doing, Tracy? It doesn't mean that I am going to use both of them, but it is important that I show you different ways you can colour with the products we're now stocking. And also to show how you can make your poinsettia look completely different. And when I'm cutting out, you can see that I'm turning the card. I'm not turning my right hand that is my dominant hand. That's the hand I'm cutting out with, but I'm turning the card with my left hand to make it easier when I'm sort of following the shape of the poinsettia. So let's go around. Let's remove most of that bit of card because I like to work with a smaller piece rather than a big piece of card. And I've done the poinsettia where I colour these green, but I just wanted to show you how you can make it look a little bit different. And that's what we love about stamps, is that you've got so many options to use your products, and that's why I love stamps so much. So let's water. Let's pick up this neat pigment. I don't want that all over me. There we go. So the advantage of the white embossing is obviously the paint resists, the embossing resists the pigment that I'm using. And I'm just going to blend that out with a little bit of the tinted water. Now obviously you wouldn't work with your card up in the air like I'm doing. I'm doing that because of the light in my craft room. It's the only reason I'm doing it. It's just because of the light in my craft room. Now I know we said, well, I could have wasted my time colouring that one. We actually haven't, because we needed time for this to dry. Particularly with us adding embossing, because you don't want to, you know, spend too much time with your heat tool over that embossed area once you've already embossed it. There we go. Don't rush your colouring, painting, or whatever you're doing, just take your time. That gives you the best, little bit more water. That gives you the best results because you're not rushing what you're doing. Let's use that water, take off the excess, and then just blend this out. Blend that out. Oh, it does look lovely on the white. Doesn't it look lovely on the white? Really nice. Take that neat pigment again. Does help if I've got a bit more water. And my water's getting more and more tinted because obviously I'm adding more and more pigment to that. Just so you can see just how lovely it looks. And we can play around. We can have both on if we wanted, but we'll see. We'll see. We might make 2 cards, and then you can have both methods then. So let's take this again. And add this really dark. A bit more water. Just blend that out. It's lovely having the line, you know, with the embossed line to play with. And I don't have to worry about going on to that embossing because I can just wipe it off. It'll just wipe off. So I don't have to worry too much about that. But it does sort of set that off a little bit, doesn't it? Let's pick up a little. With a little touch of white, it does sort of set it off nicely. And when it's all dry, I can simply come in and just wipe over the embossing, any areas that I want to set off. Can you see how it just sets against that lovely background? So, and of course there's one that I've missed. But because you've got that line with the embossing, it's like a bit of a ridge. It works quite nicely for colouring. It does work rather nicely. So I'm just going to give that a very slight waft. There we go. So just giving that a very slight waft on there. And then I can come in again and we can make it darker still. We'll use our tinted water just to blend that out. So pick up the dark, make that really dark in there. Pick up a little bit of the water. Pick up a little bit more of the dark. And then blend that out with a little bit of the water. So I'm just going round and I'm just adding a little bit more depth, just with the neat pigment. So I'm just going to go round and just add that dark. Let's add a little bit more here. Pick up that tinted, just dab off the excess. I'm losing myself now, enjoying myself in the process. So you can see how many times I've gone over the white embossing. Let's just sort of give this another little dry, maybe from the back, just so that we don't over dry that. Just so you can see that. So I was going to say, let's find a piece of clean kitchen towel. What a joke. A little bit of water on my kitchen towel, and I'm just going to dab so that the white areas just pop a little more. Let's just take my finger and let's clean our embossing up. I need to be careful of that because I'm just going to react that. There we go. I always find kitchen towel much easier. You don't use too much moisture then. There we go. Just so that we can see what we've got there. Can you see that shimmer on there? Just lovely, absolutely lovely. And it's whether I've got to add white touches to this as well, so just be mindful of that. Obviously, initially I was going to add it over the top or slightly on one side, but I like this on its own, so I might do that. You can also then, which is what was my plan, you've got all the shimmer on here now, so we can add a little bit of the shimmer just over the top, just so that it shimmers with our lindies. So let's add a little bit of the shimmer with the lindies. I'm just using my lindies just to add some of the shimmer, and I'll let that dry a little bit. Now, whilst that dries, and move that out of the way, I'm certainly not going to waste this. So I've got my shimmer from Lindy's, I've got my watercolour, and I'm just going to add some water. And I think it's best if I just put my card down initially, then pick the acrylic block up. Much easier that way, Tracy. There we go. That's it. So I've got the initial on there, and let's move it down here Look at just the richness in this. What a joy. Let's just pick that up. Let's add a little bit more of that. Actually, I'm quite happy. Let's clean my acrylic block. If you're going to use your acrylic block like a paint palette like mine, give it a clean. Not that I practice what I preach. Now I've got plenty of water on there, so I'm going to shake a little bit more of my Lindy's. And let's just spritz that loads. Now I'm going to add, let's grab a smaller acrylic block, a little one. And I'm going to take, was it my fine brush? Yeah. Let's just take any of this pigment that's on here, on my watercolours. There we go. Let's wash my brush in that as well. Just stir it a little bit. And then let's add some of this colour to this as well. And then you can't pick it up because there's suction on there, as you can see. And normally I leave it on there, but I don't want to do that at the moment. There we go. Look at that lovely colour, and it's got shimmer in there. It's got my watercolour in there. It's wonderful. And I'm just enjoying myself. No rush, just playing and enjoying myself. If you want some watercolour, some kitchen towel under there, put kitchen towel under there. I'm now then going to splatter some Posca pen in there because it'll just wick out into all of the colour. So let's get that flowing. So it just wicks out and gives another dimension to the colours. So it just adds more to it. I'm then just going to pick up a little bit of water. You know what else you could add to this, don't you? You could add some salt to it, and that would add even more texture to your background. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on a piece of kitchen roll. She says, how many pieces of kitchen roll can one person need? Because I don't want to waste everything we've been doing. But we've got a lovely background there as well. Can you see the white Posca pen in there as well? Just wonderful. It's up to you. You can add more of the Posca pen whilst it's all wet, just so it just adds to the background. Can you see how it all wicks out? And it adds to that background. It's just lovely. So what we can do then, let's move everything up here. We've got all these pieces here. Let's move that one over there, like so. Oh, sorry, I'm knocking the camera. Put the camera back, just so that you can see our pieces. You can see all the shimmer on there. So I'm going to bring in my Hawthorn Rose, and I'm going to bring in my Magnolia stamp. So let's bring in the Magnolia, because it's got some lovely text on there that you can't really read it, but it's perfect. You want it so you can't read it. There we go. So you want it so that you can't read that. And then I'm going to use my Hawthorn Rose going to add a little bit of text just to my background. It really does add to it in this case. So and I can polish any ink that sticks to the embossing. Let's extend it there. Let's extend the text there. Can you see? It really adds to the background. And I'll add some text to the other background shortly as well. And whilst I'm here, I'm going to add the hawthorn rose just around the edge of the card. Just so it edges that. There we go. And then I'm just going to dry this from the back just a little bit, because I don't want to affect the embossing that we've already done. It's a little bit gently from the back. Then let's move that out of the way. Then I'm going to take the berries stamp, and then it'll be a case of, where did you put the berries, Tracy? Good question. Is it that one? Yeah. So we're going to take TE55, which is our lovely stamp here, TE55. Got our lovely berries on there. Now I don't know whether, let me just see. It's probably asking a bit much. I don't know whether I've got a mask of the poinsettia. We'll see. There's that many masks here. But I can't remember whether I had one of the poinsettia. Do you know? I have. It's got a bit of sticky on it. But there you go. There's the poinsettia. And this is why I keep my masks, because they can be used a few times, even if you're not using your masking sheets. You can use them a few times. There we go. So I've got my poinsettia here. Let's sort of, now is just finding where it is. Where have you got? Is that not that? Right there. So actually finding which way your poinsettia goes is the hardest bit. So I'm just going to take forever. There's a leaf. Where's the very strong? There we go. Can you see? It's not perfect because it's been used that many times, but it's going to do the job. There we go. That's it. So then I'm going to take the berries. Which one are you going to use, Trace? I think I'm going to use this loose one at the top here. And we've got yet another acrylic block with a little bit of ink on. Oh, and a little bit more ink here. So let's take this berry stamp, and I'm going to take, so you've got like a purple colour. It's white, honestly. The noise I'm making is just unbelievable. What colour does this look? I nearly did that on my card then. I think I'll stick with, what colour are you? I'm testing the colours just so that you don't think I'm going mad. I'm just no, there's too blue. I was just testing the colours before I used my hawthorn rose, and it is hawthorn rose that I want to use. And I'm then going to just add a few berries. obviously it's very tone on tone, but I can just add a little touch of shading with a pencil. Let's add a little bit down here. Now this elongates my design a little bit, which is lovely. So again, it's very sort of tone on tone that you can't see at the moment, but we'll soon sort that out. And the only reason I'm wiping this because it's got bits of everything on. So I'm just giving that a little bit of a clean. Let's place the berries back for now, or else I won't find them and then I'll ask you where they are. Just so you can see how the berries are very tone on tone. Can't speak. Right. So we'll add a bit more, we'll add a bit of pencil just to the berries a little bit. So I want something that's quite, what you're going to use, Tracy? Tracy's going to take forever. What colour are you? What colour's that? So I have processed red and black grape. So I'm just going to put a little bit of black grape just around the berries a little bit. It instantly just lifts it, just adding, I don't know where I was going down here, just adds a little bit to the berries. And we're just going to come in with the processed red and just add a little bit more of the processed red, just so it's more prominent. On your design. So it just lifts that berry up. Keep going down there to that little dot. Don't ask me why. So a little bit of that processed red. And I'm going to use the black grape, and I'm just going to make the lines a little bit more prominent, just so that you can see that we've definitely got some. Oh, we haven't done that one, have we? We have the white bits, you know, the white touches to put in there. So I'm just adding that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come round with a little bit of the black grape. And I'm going to add a little bit, very lightly, just around my poinsettia, just with the black grape. Just around the actual just to make that a little bit more prominent. But I'm only pressing very lightly. I'm not pressing very hard around the poinsettia. Let's just have a look. Just gives it a little bit of a shadow. And then if I lift this, if there's a little line in here, I can just add a little bit of darkness in there. Just where there's the embossing, it's got a gap in there. So I can just scribble a little bit of pencil in there. Lovely. And then I'm just going to use the black grape just to come in and just have a tiny bit. It's a shame I've got to keep lifting this, but I just cannot see. Just to add a little tiny bit. Just of darkness. Just, there we go. Just so it's slightly darker, just where we need it. Slightly darker, it just makes it pop a little bit more. I'm going to come in a little bit more with those berries. It's funny how a little bit of pencil can just lift everything. And we obviously need to add those touches of white. Let's just lift that up. But the berries, they're instantly lifted. It's just wonderful. I'm going to add a little touch of processed red just on top as well. Not much. I'm not taking over the watercolour. I'm just adding a little bit. A suggestion of the processed red. A little suggestion. So that watercolour colour is still there. So don't think it isn't. So I'm just going to take, I was going to say a dry piece of kitchen roll. And I'm just going to polish my embossing. Oh, I just love that look. Absolutely love it. Just love that. So we now need our, oh, if I kick things over one more time, I drive myself mad, never mind anybody else. So let's take our fine brush. I've no idea what colour is on this brush because I've used that many brushes. There we go. So let's bring in our bleed proof white. Coat my brush, and then I'm just going to add, preferably not that much, but there you go. Just add a little bit of white just here and there. Just to our little stems, just so that you can see them. Just so you can see that. Let's leave that with the white on. Can you see? Just looks lovely. What's my poinsettia got on? The beauty of the season. Well, I think that says enough, don't you? The beauty of the season. Yep, that definitely says enough. Don't want anything too overpowering. And I'm using the Hawthorn Rose. I'm just going to add a little bit of it here. Let's see if it stands out enough. It's no, so we need it on white card. So let's grab a piece of white card. Doesn't stand out quite enough for me, but I don't want it stamped in the black. There we go. Let's cut this out. There's only me that faffs over a sentiment so much. Okay, let's move this out of the way. Let's bring this in, and then I'm going to add that there, which stands out far, far more. There we go. So let's... You can see there's too much adhesive on there, so just dab some of the excess away. There we go, just so that you can see. You've got shimmer on there, just looks beautiful. And you know, it gives the poinsettia a little bit of a different look. So we're then going to grab my white card blank. Now we could have quite easily placed this on here, and then you could have put your sentiment. Let me do this. You could have put your sentiment. So you stick that down, and you could have had your sentiment across here as well. So there's different ways you can do things. So I'm then going to add this to my card blank. And again, adding to the back mainly because it is, you know, it's warping. Now I've not added this to like another piece. What you can do you like how I suddenly do that? If I take another piece of 4x6, I can adhere that to another piece of 4x6, not very straight. It'll take me forever now. I was just thinking it would just give it a little bit more sturdiness. Make it really stand proud, because it's got those two pieces of 300 GSM. So let's have a look. There we go. So let's add this now to my 5x7 card blank. There we go. That's it. And just make sure that is all stuck down. Give it plenty of time just to stick down. So then we have our, let me just make sure that is stuck down. There we go. So we have our card, which is all flat. So posting is easy because it's only the sentiment that is cut out and it's not too thick. I think I might need to stick that down. I can't have bits sticking up, but just so you can see, I just think that is beautiful and it gives it a little bit of a different look. So you've still got left, where am I going to put this now? No idea. Let's place it there. So you've then still got left your pieces here. Let me show you this background now. Look at this background. It's got shimmer, it's got the splatters where the Posca pen was, it's got the dark areas. So let's just give this a dry. Again, if you dry that, just be mindful that it is going to warp. If you let it dry naturally, you get less warping. It's just what the card does naturally. So let's just mop up some of the excess. If you leave it without mopping it up, you can keep those dark areas if you wish. So I now need to add a little bit of, let me just spritz this with water, and then we'll just use some clean kitchen roll just to mop up a little bit. Oh, there we go. Just so it sort of gives it some texture. So now I've spritzed the watercolour with water, so it'll give it some texture. Can you see? That's it. So I'm going to give that a dry. I'm then going to add some more to the background because I'm just enjoying myself too much. Right. So I'm going to add a little bit of stamping like we did before with the text, but I'm going to add that to my background. And again, I'm using that hawthorn rose. So let's use the hawthorn rose. And we're just going to stamp this onto the background. Just adding the detail all the way down the card because you want each one to look slightly different. So we've got a lovely background now with that text on there, and I'm just going to give that a waft dry just because we've used that VersaFine Clair, just to make sure it's nice and dry. I'm now going to add dots of glue, just sort of dotted around. You're not going to see them, but I just want to add some more detail because I am going to add some sisal nest. There we go. And I want to add, where are you? Watch me not, oh, I've found it. I'm now going to use my Distress Snowflakes Mica Flakes because it's got a bit of both in. And I'm just going to, and I've got mica on there. I want some of the mica bits as well. And I've got a piece of kitchen roll there because then if it all goes everywhere, it can just be tipped into. Okay, now really you wouldn't tip it straight off, would you, because you want the mica flakes to stick. So let's place that mica there. So don't do as I do and tip it off straight away. I'm having to make it real time you can leave yours on there, just doing its thing. I'm going to leave that like that. So let me just leave that big mica flake on there. That's it. Tip that back into your pot, which I will do later. I'll pick that kitchen roll up and do that later. And I'm then going to grab some sisal nest to give it some texture, or we could use white cotton. There's nothing like sisal, but look at the sisal nest. Can you see it's a natural colour? I don't want that. So what we'll do for the texture is we'll grab white cotton. So if we grab some white cotton, and what I want now is the background to have texture before we put the poinsettia on. So I'm just going to spread the cotton out, just so that it diffuses my background a little bit. And before you move your card, let it dry overnight or whenever you're doing it. Just because that will give that a little bit of time just to dry. And when it's dry, you can then tap it again, just to get rid of the excess adhesive. So I've now got my poinsettia that's got texture and everything. And I'm going to, there you are. I'm going to take my bleed proof white. And this is where, when you've picked sisal nest up, you end up putting it on your project and everything, because that's what we do. Look, now this is not moving, it normally moves. A little bit of moisture. Let's pick up that pigment, just so it's loaded with pigment. I've now got no kitchen roll. Let me grab another piece. I can't work without kitchen roll. I like something to just dab the excess off onto. And then I'm just going to just take a little bit of the white and very gently add a little bit of the white detail. Now, isn't it fun to make your stamps look different each time? Just to give them a different look, just so they look a little bit different each time. So I'm going to add some of the white just to the centre. You could add a little bit of yellow if you wanted to, but I don't want to do that. I want to add the white. Let's grab a little bit more water and a little bit more bleed proof and dab the excess off. Where was I looking? There. But you can see why you need a fine brush, because you just want a little bit of that detail. Just so that each time you do your poinsettia, you're getting extra fun from it, just so that it looks a little bit different each time. Just adding some texture to the centre. You can make these look whiter as well if you wish, but it just gives you different ways. There we go. Now let's give this paintbrush a little bit of a clean, because it's going to have a lot of that pigment on there. I've got nowhere to put anything. Honestly, I've got stuff everywhere. Now I want a little bit of something behind this as well. So I'm going to let me think. Where are you? Which I know. This is where your thinking goes into overtime. Right, so I want the tag. So let's clean up a little bit more. And it's hilarious where I've started and where I've ended up. So I'm going to take the tag stencil, and it's of course never the first one. There we go. So SS11. And I'm going to take my blending brush, and I want one that's had some grey on. I'm going to take one of my small blending brushes, and I'm going to grab, whoa, a little bit of hickory smoke. Let's grab a little bit of hickory smoke. Now I don't want anything too dark, I just want a little bit of ink. There we go. So I'm going to pick up some of that ink. I don't want too much. In fact, I'm just going to take off the excess, and then I'm going to come in and just blend a little bit of the grey. I don't want to add too much ink. There we go. You can see you don't need much ink at all. Let's get this out of the way. You can work a lot better if you've got things out of the way. Just remove that stencil. And then I'm just going to cut this out. You can use your larger scissors should you wish. Especially up on the straight edge. Just cut some of this card away, it just makes it far easier. There we go. This light really isn't helping me much. There we go. And then just so that the edges are not so harsh, we'll just add a little bit of that grey, like so. And then I'm just going to scuff the edges a little bit. Now just be careful when you're using scissors. You should use your distressing tools. I don't have any, so I'm just going to use my scissors, and I'm just scuffing that up a little bit. There we go. I'm then going to take the same text from the Magnolia, and I'm going to take some Morning Mist ink. So take the Morning Mist. I'm going to add some of the Morning Mist to my tag. Let's add a little bit up there. Going to bring in my card. And as I said before, you can actually tap off all the excess once you've finished. Once you've finished doing what you need to do, let's bring this in. I'm going to keep my cotton on there, but can you see there's quite a bit of glitter that comes off? The rest can go on the floor. And then Ian comes in and goes, "What have you been doing?" So I'm then going to add my little tag to the background, like so. And then I can bring my poinsettia in. Now, before I add the poinsettia, which one was it? I suppose it doesn't have to be in the same position. The poinsettia is going to go here, but I need something a little bit more, as in foliage. So I'm going to take what one is it on? It's remembering what is on everything. I think it might be TE45. TE45. So I'm going to take TE45 and I'm going to take a little bit of this here. So let's take our TE45 where the text always falls off because it is so grubby. And I really should clean it just so that it isn't so grubby. So let's grab the stamp. Oops, sorry about that. I've just knocked the... And what you have to remember is I've made 2 projects in this time. I'm going to have glitter everywhere. So I'm going to take the Hawthorn Rose and I'm just going to take that. There's the first generation. I don't know what the second generation looks like, but it's quite nice. So let's just get rid of some of this card, just so that I'm not trying to play with big areas. And then I'm going to cut out a little bit of this foliage. You can just use the holly leaves, you could use the ivy, anything you want that just gives it a little bit more to the design. You don't need much. You don't need much at all. So I just want to add a little bit of this behind the poinsettia. I'm leaving a little bit of a white border just because it makes it a little bit easier. So I've got one part of it here. You can see I've just got a little bit of foliage here, and I'll just pick a couple of areas where that can adhere. Let's put a little bit down the stem because that will be hidden. I haven't even what's hilarious is I haven't even stuck the poinsettia down, and I'm trying to stick this down. So funny. So let's just add a little bit, maybe 3 dollops to the poinsettia, because there we go. That's it, and that will catch on there. Let's just have it a little bit more to that side because I'm a fusspot. Let's push this up now. I'll just take that out as well. That little bit of a lump. It's nothing like a faffy. So now I'm going to take a little bit more of the foliage. And you can see I'm just deciding which little bits I want to add to the poinsettia. I then just want to add the word poinsettia. Let's get rid of that. So I do want to add the word poinsettia as well. So just have a look and see what you can perhaps add. The cotton and the mica flakes and things really adds some beautiful texture to this piece. Let's take this down here. What's nice about this is each piece of foliage is not going to look exactly the same, and that actually adds to it for me. Really makes it look lovely. Let's go down here. There we go. So I shall add this now from the bottom. Let's just add a little bit of adhesive there. But because I've got that pin flare glue in there, I can push it into the pin flare. I think there's one area that will stick down. There you go. So I can just add that. No, you can't, Tracy. It's just going to pop back up. So let's just give that a little bit of time, just so it sticks on there. Just gives it a little bit of foliage. And I just need to, this is going to be a pain, the background, because obviously it's quite curled. So just remember that. I'm going to take my Posca pen. I'm going to add some splatters. To my background. You can even add mica flakes to the centre should you wish. I'm then going to take the word poinsettia. So let's just put this back. At the back. And there. So grab our word poinsettia. I've got too many things here. Here it is. Now, because I've used that pinky colour, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a wipe so that that pink colour doesn't, oh, there's not much on there. I was going to say so that it doesn't overpower anything else. Let's place our poinsettia back, which again, I never get in the right place. Where's that long leaf? Like I just want to... There we go. Where's the long thin leaf? It's like I've talked to myself. Is it that one? No, it's thinner than that. It's that one. There we go. So we've got that word poinsettia. So we can stamp that. And I've got this thin piece of card, so we may as well use that. And I'm going to use the grey to stamp this with. add the poinsettia. You can see how long I take to create something, but then you've got to think up the idea as well. Cut our little word out. Again, I don't want too big a word. Do you know, I think somebody's setting fireworks off. How can you be setting fireworks off now? And we've had that. All right. So I'm then going to just add the poinsettia word here. Let's just add that there. Just under here. Like so. And it's just enough without being too much. Preferably straight is often a nice thing. There we go. Just enough without being too much. Oh, I haven't got a white card blank. Well, what a surprise. That doesn't matter. I will just show you at the back of this card, like so, and then I'll add it to a white card blank for the photograph, and you can see it in the photograph. So that will be added to a white card blank, just so you can see that. It's just lovely. And it gives you two different ideas with your poinsettia. Just lovely different ideas to adopt for your poinsettia stamp. You can add a little bit of shading if you want, but I don't really want to add, where's that dark colour? The grey, you know, my Inktense. So you could go round with a little bit of your black grape. Obviously you're going to do this when everything's dry. I'm just showing you so you can see. Nothing's dry at the moment, but when it's all dry, go round with your black grape and that'll just give it a little bit of shading. So I hope you've enjoyed those, and I hope you'll give those a go, just for something a little bit different. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.